It's the month of May, spring in the land of Lakes Country. And Carmen McRae, it's been a long time since we sat under the palm at 125th Street and 7th Avenue.
Oh, God, you have a great memory, Leigh. It has been a long time.
Little water over the dam and experience in life and the impact of it all. In just following you from the Blue Note in New York to the Dakota here in St. Paul, Minneapolis, certainly I'm observing what you say and hear, and I was interested in your new project concerning Thelonius Monk.
Oh, yes, that was a project of mine that I had in my mind for about 4 years, but I didn't know whether there were any lyrics, to his tune. And finally, I found out that John Hendricks had a lyric to every Thelonious Monk tune and he ever wrote. So that made it kind of nice. So I got all kinds of tapes and of his tunes with lyrics, and some of them I didn't find palatable for singing. They were good. There was nothing wrong with them, but for singing, I just didn't think they suited. Just my opinion, the human voice. So I picked. He wrote some lovely, lovely melodies like "Ruby, My Dear" and "Panonica" and things like that. And they were just really nice. So I picked out, chose the tunes I wanted, and then had to learn them. A lot of them I just knew at the top of my head, but really didn't know them. Just had been hearing them for years. And let me tell you, it was not an easy project at all. But it sure was interesting.
That music seems so angular.
It is. Angular. I never thought of that word angular, but that's a good word. Because it makes, I had these tapes, and I would go to the store or get in the car and go to the movies, and I'd play them, and I would just curse Thelonious. I'd look up in the store, and I said, why did you put that note in that particular place, But it was very interesting, and it turned out very good, I'm happy to say. I have Clifford Jordan is a sax man and who knows Thelonious backwards and forwards, and he was just perfect. Along with, we had George Mraz on bass and Al Foster on drums, who was perfect, and my pianist, Eric. It was lovely.
Eric is quite a young artist, formidable young lion.
Absolutely. He really is something else. He's been with me 3 years, and I just never get tired of him. He never plays the same solo twice, and I wonder where he gets all these ideas, but he's just that fluid, and he just knows what he's doing, which is a pleasure.
Interplay is a great word for you and Eric.
Interplay, yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of fun because I have tried to impress on whoever works for me that they must listen to me, and not just me, whoever they play for, whoever they're playing and whoever's soloing, they must listen and get the idea of where they're coming from and where they're going in order for them to be able to accompany them the way they should,
That art of accompaniment is certainly something and is a part of your life, beginning in those days when you played for yourself, of course.
Right. It's not the easiest job in the world, playing and singing, I've found. Sometimes it just rolls off a log, easily, and other times it's just, I don't know what happens. Your fingers and your brain and your words and the melody, they all get intertwined somehow. And when I sit and play, if I play something wrong, I can get out of it because I'm going to make believe I really meant to do that, and just scoot on into the next right chord, But I like doing it, and it was the basis of the most of my experience.
I think I met you about the time that you were graduating from that particular period, where you were self-contained as an artist and moved on into those studio sessions for Bethlehem.
Yes, that was the first ones we did, but the ones that really, I think, counted a little bit more were the Stardust things that I did. That was that seemed to have helped me tremendously, you know. So, along with the Bethlehem things, but the Bethlehem didn't somehow. I don't think whether they came out. I don't think they came out before I made the start. I think they came out after, you know. And so, therefore, the first things that anyone heard were the Stardust recordings, and then came the Bethlehem thing, and I guess they were afraid to to put it out, I suppose, until somebody else took a chance. I don't know.
But those Stardust recordings, am I right? Was Matt Matthews on those dates?
Oh yes, the first recordings I did, we had Matt Matthews. This man, what was his name? Frank, Len Frank, I think his name was. Released, instead of releasing just one record, you know, there were the 78 days. Instead of releasing just one record with two sides, he released two records, four sides. So we had two with Matt Matthews, a small group, and then we did one with strings and things like that. So it was quite interesting.
In a moment, I'd like to come back to you. I'll take just a break, and let's talk about the messages in the music. Miles away from either coast, we're in the center in the hinterlands, and in St. Paul and Minneapolis in a strange and wonderful environment, Bandana Square, where James J. Hill pioneered the steam locomotives and the railroads to the west, and now the sophisticated messages of jazz and ballads. Carmen McRae, it's good to see you again, and I'm fascinated by what you do. Very few vocalists do today. The verse comes first.
Oh yeah, well, you know, it's some of the tunes that I'm doing now are verseless, or not verseless, but I don't know them. But I have a lot of tunes that I do, and find the verses sometimes prettier than the choruses, you know. So I have been looking really around for tunes that are old standards that have great verses that people never heard. You know, I'm not doing so well, but maybe it'll all come about. I would like to, you know, it's just great. Nobody's ever thought of just doing verses to the tunes, you know, because sometimes like the verse, you know, the verse of Stardust is so much prettier to me than actual Stardust. The melody, though the melody is gorgeous, I'm not saying that, but I think Frank Sinatra a long time did just the verse. Did you know that? Really? He did just the verse and never did the chorus. And it was fabulous. That was years ago, though.
And then Mel Torme recorded it too, with the verse and the chorus.
Well, I did too, but that was a long time ago. I don't even remember what label or.
Any composer that strikes you, or team, or partnership in composition and in the art of the ballad that you've mentioned? I know the Bergmans, I beg your pardon.
No, yeah, oh, they're the greatest to me. I cannot think of anybody else that I like as much. If I had a song, or if anybody had a song, they said, "Who can I get to write?" That would be the only people I would recommend, because they are just fabulous. I don't know how they get the idea, you know, of the format of the tune itself. Like there's a song that I do that Roger Calloway wrote just for me, which I'm really flattered about. That I did it on an album called. The name of the song was called "I Have the Feeling I've Been Here Before," and the Bergmans wrote the lyrics, and it's just fabulous. The melody is gorgeous, and he had the good taste to go to them because he knew how much I love them, and since he had written that for me, he knew where to go to get the lyrics, you know.
In selecting your material, What is it that attracts you to that piece of material or series of pieces?
Well, it depends mainly on the lyric. That's what would see. I don't the melody somehow is important, but being an improviser, I can always change it if I choose. But the lyric, I want to stand out. That's what I want. The first thing to hit my eye would be some great words put together beautifully, because that gives me inspiration. And you have to have something to say after all. A singer has really the most important thing is the lyric. And so I really try to find those lyrics that are realistic and that people can identify with. You can't get too sophisticated out there. You have to talk about what life is all about, not what you hope it's about. And most of those lyrics just tell it like it is.
You do wonderfully with theater and drama, and I know you've had some acting roles. And any real desire in the direction of the theater to do a major project?
Only if they pick me up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and we go to the studio and I get made up, and about a half hour after I'm made up I go on to do something. Usually it's pick up at 7 o'clock in the morning, you get to the studio at 8, you get made up, and then you sit until 3 before they call you. And so that part, I cannot. It just kills me to do that. I get more tired sitting there doing absolutely nothing. But that's the way they do it. And I mean, everybody does it. It doesn't matter who you are, the star or the whoever you are in that movie. It doesn't matter. They go through the same thing. And I think that's dumb. I really do. I just think it should be officiated better than that, because sitting around is not my cup of tea, and I lose all incentive. It's just like when I work in a club. I don't want to come here an hour before I go on. I want to come 20 minutes before I go on. So, because I come here and I'm up and I want to do it, but if I have to sit for a half hour or 40 minutes or an hour, then by the time I get ready to go on, I wish I was, somewhere else, But that's the only thing I don't like about film, is doing that. It's a pain. But you really have, I'm not that dedicated to making films. I'm more dedicated to singing. So if I'm going to waste time sitting around, I'd rather waste time sitting around waiting to sing,
Carmen McRae, may I just probe and look at something historically? I've heard you mention mentors, inspiration, the people that made your art and influenced your art.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, that, of course, was Billie Holiday. And she still influences me quite a bit. And the other person was Irene Wilson Kitchings, a lady who was just phenomenal in every sense of the word, and who gave me a lot of encouragement. Introduced me to Billie, incidentally, which is one of the great things in my life. And she just was there when I really needed her. And if it weren't for her, because I knew if she said I could sing, knowing how great she was, I had to have been a singer, I didn't believe it truly within myself, but it was like she was talking about someone else, and I was sitting on the side. But she was a great pianist, and could play the prettiest chords you ever heard in your life, and wrote some marvelous tunes, which I have recorded, and Leigh has recorded. So it's all thank God for Renee.
Renee's Some Other Spring, is it?
Yes, Some Other Spring. I did a song the other night. I don't know if you heard it. I'm Pulling Through. Yeah, that's hers also. Which really, she had a. That's the funny thing too. She had a great man who was the lyricist. His name is Arthur Herzog Jr. I think he's also passed away, but Arthur had a knack of all you had to do was say to him, "Well, what were you thinking about when you wrote this melody and so forth?" And he would take it, and it was just as though Irene had written the lyric. I mean, it couldn't have been more perfect. She wasn't a lyricist; she was just a musician, and she played and she composed, but this man had her down to a T. It was absolutely phenomenal.
It's amazing how you can meld, someone with words can meld with the music.
That's true because she never knew him. She was she was looking for a lyricist, and somebody, I don't remember now who it was, who introduced her to him. And he lived, it was in Detroit, I think. Was it Detroit? I think Detroit. Yes, in Detroit. And I don't know, she was introduced to him, and he came up and started writing these lyrics that were just unbelievable.
With Billie Holiday, what was it that first caught your ear and your psyche?
Well, I'd heard her records long before I saw her. Well, not too long before, but she just, I don't know. I found it, I've had this question asked of me many times, and I have not found the words to tell you. It was more an ethereal thing with me. I could not find the words to describe her. And then I went to see her, and I couldn't find the words to describe her then either. And then she had the prettiest face you ever wanted to see in life, and could swing her buns off, and was cool with it. She never, I don't remember ever seeing Lady perspire. She just stood there. She didn't make any gyrations. She just had one hand up that was up, and the other one that stayed halfway between the one that was up and her knee. And she just sat there and she just did it. And that's how it came out. And I said, well, if I had ever thought, which I hadn't even thought about singing then, but if I had have, I'd have probably went and jumped off the Empire State Building, because after, I should say, after Lady, then what?
Carmen McRae, it's a privilege to sit in with you in between and off stage, and as always, it's good to renew. What a pleasure to see you. The quality that you bring to our life is something special.
Well, Leigh, you were always very kind to me, and I appreciate that very, very much, because you are a gentleman that I always considered had very good taste in music, and you included me in it, so that made me really get fresh, you know what I mean? But I'm so happy to see you. It's such a long time, and you're still beautiful as ever. Thank you.
Thank you.